Hello everyone and welcome to Mangaroos, or Mangaroos. We haven't really decided how to say it yet. This is the very first episode where we're going to be talking about one of my personal favorite manga series over the past couple of years, Kimetsu no Yaiba, or Demon Slayer, Kimetsu no Yaiba in English. Kimetsu no Yaiba debuted in Shonen Jump in 2016 and ran until 2020. The last volume came out in 2021, which is right around the time that I really got deep into the series, and all of Japan cried when it ended, and there's been nothing that's really filled the void in our hearts since then. For those of you who aren't familiar with the story, and I think many of you are, it's about a young man named Tanjiro and his quest to cure his sister from a very curious disease where she becomes a demon. It's not something I've struggled with in my personal life or my purple life. But it is definitely something that we all may face at one time, and there's a lot of life lessons that come out of that. It was written by Koyoharu, who is either an alligator or a woman. I'm not exactly sure. It's not her first.
It's technically possible to be both.
It is biologically possible to be both. This is not her first rodeo. She's written other manga, but nothing nearly as big as Kimetsu, which was absolutely her breakout hit. For those of you who aren't so much into the written word or the drawn word, it is also a hit anime series and a hit movie series as well. In 2020, the Mugen Resha, the one with the train, and we all like trains.
With the train, yeah.
Yeah, everyone likes trains, which is like a super minor arc in the story, in around volume 6 to 8, which we won't talk about today because we're only talking about volume 1, was the just mega hit of the summer of 2020. It was the pandemic. There wasn't a lot to do. I think people just kind of went to the movie theater multiple times to see it. Alex, I'm sure you may have gone.
Yeah.
A couple times. Yeah.
They spaced us out in the theater though, so it wasn't like we were on top of each other. So
maybe that's why people had to go so many times. They wanted to try it from a different seat.
I mean, you get like 3 seats during the pandemic.
Hey, I have a question.
Jason, yes, please.
Who are you? And who am I? And who are we?
That is a great question. My name is Mark, and I don't like manga very much, but I do love to talk about it. And I'm only the host for this episode in this new podcast that's just launching. This is the first episode, by the way. There were other ghost episodes that shall not count. Okay. But this is the first.
So if you're listening to this right now, make sure you seal it in a tight plastic wrap. You'll be able to sell it for a fortune later. This is the first episode, original printing. Keep it in good condition. You never know what it might be worth someday.
Put it on the shelf. And I've got my 2 very good friends here. Jason, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Jason. I actually really like manga. And I also like talking about it. So that's why I'm here. And it's great to be here. Yeah. And we have a third friend as well, who is...
Hi, I'm Alex, and I'm here for the ride.
The ride on the Mugen train.
Yeah, the ride on the Mugen train.
Watch out for those sleepy demons. I wish those sleepy demons would...
I also like manga, and I even spent money to go to manga school.
I didn't even know there was manga school.
Oh, there is manga school in the land of the rising sun. If you look at Tanjiro's little ear thing, you'll see the rising sun, which is famously taken out of like the international version because people are angry about it. Yeah.
Did they? I had
had
no idea.
I mean, it's like not all countries love the rising sun.
That makes sense.
There are connotations.
Yeah.
Historical implications.
Wow, that's a fascinating point. In the Japanese version...
See, we're learning something already.
It is very much prominently displayed. And maybe that's what makes Muzan so angry all the time. He's like, what is that flag? Come on.
Yeah.
This is... I mean, it was 2016, so we should be well past that. But at the time, the piece itself is set in the Taisho era of Japan, which is... early 1920s?
Yeah.
The Roaring 20s for our America's friends.
The Roaring 20s.
They're kind of like vague.
Underused time period for fiction, I think.
Most definitely. And it's not like a steampunk thing. I feel like it's pretty much set in the period, except for there are demons everywhere. Which maybe there were in the 1920s. I don't know. I wasn't around.
Historically accurate as far as I'm aware. Yeah.
Shin Megami Tensei Persona series.
Of course, yeah.
They had like a game that was in that era. There were a lot of demons. The Raido one. Yeah.
Well, while we're name dropping, isn't the Daigyakuten Saiban the great Ace Attorney?
Yes, that one also.
Is that also Taisho?
But, yeah, it's also Taisho. But just the beginning of that really just brings back memories, because I played it and I was like, the first case is like this white woman who's very racist. And it's like,
as everyone was in Taisho.
Yeah.
In the Taisho.
That was a Japan pop culture take on Karens. It
was a Karen landed in Japan.
Pretty much.
That was the first case, so it's just like forever in my mind.
God, what would a Karen in Japan be, like a Kiyomi? I don't know.
You gotta play it and find out.
You might enjoy.
No, I just remember this.
Yeah, a lot of pointing.
A lot of pointing.
For those of you only listening to the podcast, Mark just pointed dramatically. It
was a very dramatic
Gyakuten Saiban fashion.
Yeah, that'll be in the show notes.
I'm not gonna slam on my table.
He's in there.
And I love their hats. Oh gosh, speaking of hats.
All right.
How we all just read the first volume of Kimetsu, and I'd like to ask your general thoughts, overall impressions. Alex, I'm going to go with you first. What'd you think?
It was interesting reading it again after not reading it in a while. I think I read it in like 2020 when the pandemic was getting me down, and people were talking about it. So I decided to read it. When did the anime come out? Do you remember?
Gosh. The anime debuted in 2019, but it really became a thing again in 2020.
Okay, so I think I'd already watched the anime before reading the manga, is how I thought I approached it, and I think I did.
Anime beautiful, by the way. UFO Table, yeah?
Yeah. The anime is beautiful. I like UFO Table, and I really like the style. And then friends were saying it's really good, and everyone was saying it's really good, so I was like, okay, what am I waiting for? I'm stuck inside. I should read it. And then it was good. And also it doesn't drag on like a lot of Shonen Jump series.
Is it?
So it's like, it's satisfying like getting to end a series, which is something you don't get to do a lot of times. So
for a few of those long-running serials out there, we'll just
whose
name shall not be named.
Hunter.
I feel like he just pops out another volume whenever he feels up to the challenge, which I appreciate. Yeah. Oh gosh. Excellent. Jason, what were your thoughts?
So first and foremost, I want to say thank you to Mark for recommending this, because I'm the only one who is reading this for the first time. And certainly I was there at the height of the popularity. I remember everybody talking about it. And I've watched the first episode of the anime, I want to say, on 3 separate occasions. And I just cannot get into it at all. I will admit the animation is gorgeous. It's incredible to look at. But I have this thing with, I guess, storytelling in general. I find it really hard to get invested in stories that have no humor at all, that take themselves really seriously and are all about, like, getting the tears flowing, which I understand the series does well. But that first episode of the anime is like extremely
It's not lighthearted.
Yeah, it's nothing fun happens in it at all.
It's not fun.
So I was like, well, I don't need any of that. I'm already going through a goddamn pandemic over here, So it never really hooked me. And for that reason, I assumed, I'd Googled it a bunch of times, like, well, maybe the manga's better. But a lot of people on the internet will tell you, like, the manga's the same story, but with worse art.
Oh, and no, that's so mean.
The internet, this might be the first time this has happened, but I think the internet was wrong.
Oh, wait, that's the controversial opinion.
The
people
art
on the internet were lying.
It's awesome. Like, it's really great. And I got to tell you, I read this on Monday. We're recording on Friday. I read this on Monday, and I've had a hell of a hard time not reading, like, the entire rest of the series. I wanted to keep it pure. I've only read volume 1, but I've already purchased up to volume 15. I've got them ready to go. And I was hooked. This was an awesome first volume. I loved it.
Oh my gosh. And I know when we started talking about this podcast, we were only going to keep it to the volume ones. That's like our shtick. But the story really picks up around volume 2, which you haven't gotten to. So we won't do spoilers. But then when volume 3 hits around, and you've got the other main characters who are coming in. One of them has a boar mask on their heads, and the other...
I was going to ask you about the pig head guy.
The pig head guy.
He doesn't show up.
He comes in number 3, and those characters are very household names now in Japan.
I mean, there's a Christmas tree in our lobby, and it's just covered in Kimetsu no Yaiba ornaments.
That's adorable.
Even my son, who is like, when he was 2 years old, and he could barely say like 6 or 7 words, one of his first words was Kimetsu. I was like, how do you even know that? It's like, well, the kids are talking about it.
I have a similar story. My daughter was 4 years old when this thing was at the height of its popularity, right? And she would come home from preschool and tell me like these intricate stories involving all the characters, dropping their names. And I had to remind her literally every day, like, I don't know who these people are. I don't know what you're talking about. But I'm excited to like find out how much of what she was telling me actually happens in the story and how much of it was just made up at preschool among the children.
Yeah, I mean, for those of you listening at home, just to put this into perspective, when the Mugen Resha movie hit in 2020, biggest grossing movie ever of all time in Japan. Like, this is bigger.
Yeah, not only animated, like
no, of all time, bigger than Star Wars, bigger than Titanic, bigger than Avatar, bigger than every other movie. It was like what, 40 billion yen? I think when I was doing my research, which is about $100 US now because of the shitty exchange rate. So we'll just keep it in yen. But
it was impressive at the time.
It was impressive. The thing that gets me is that there are other Kimetsu movies, but you don't hear anything about them. So I don't know.
Actually, I didn't see them. I didn't know.
Like, right, they never. It was like, I don't know. It was just like a perfect storm. No one had anything to do because I remember
it was a perfect storm, though. It was, and we all needed to cry.
We needed
to go to a dark place together and be together but apart, and then all cry together.
And then Rengoku, he just kind of he held our hand and walked us through all that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also had that Hot Lisa soundtrack, right?
Lisa.
Yeah.
Was that from the TV series?
Lisa's
I don't actually know.
I mean, I think she did a movie.
She made a movie song too.
A movie song.
Yeah.
So like she did the anime song, and then she also did one for the movie.
And do you remember? You don't see it as much now, although I still do see it sometimes. But I'll see like little old men and women walking around my neighborhood with like the green and black checkered pattern.
So like the thing about that is this author uses traditional Japanese designs, for the main characters. So actually, those designs they predated the characters.
Oh, totally.
So,
but like it brought them back
but
into
it's so
fashion,
funny.
right?
It's like brought it back into fashion. So all the old people who had like these old designs that were like. In vogue in like the turn of the century. It's like back in fashion.
You just gotta wait longer.
Funny.
The one person in my immediate family who was like really into this story when it was really popular was my wife's mother, and she loved it. She got super into it, and I just wonder if there's like. If it's something that brings together like different generations for different reasons, you know what I mean? Like it's one of those stories that seems to appeal to every demographic.
That's a really good point. I've never thought about it that way, but it's definitely a really straightforward shonen story. Like, I mean, you've got the Doryoku, Yujo, all the things that encapsulate.
I'm sorry, what are those words in English? For our largely
friendship and the power of friendship.
working hard, and there's another one too, like where you're nice to your enemies and become.
Compassion.
Yeah.
And
I mean, Tanjiro's got a heart of gold.
Does he not? Yeah.
He's really like in Mugen Resha, I just laughed. Sorry, I'm like saying about the movie. I don't know if we should talk about the movie, but like when you see what's inside his heart, it's just like you just laugh because you already know what's inside his heart,
and you see that in volume 1 too.
I'm glad you mentioned laughing, Alex, because actually that's something I forgot to mention. So I talked about the first episode of the anime is super serious, super dark, and the first chapter of this first volume is also. And so for that first chapter, I was like, I don't know if this is going to be for me. And then immediately in chapter 2. There's a couple of really hilarious sequences like I was not expecting to laugh at this book, but it made me laugh like multiple times. So specifically, I don't know, is this something I should save until one of your later corners, Mark?
No.
Yeah, like I also have something from your for your corner.
We do. No, let's move on to the corners. I think it's safe to say that everyone is into the manga, and I'm into it. You would continue reading if given the choice. Well, Jason, you are already giving this answer. The first question that I asked Jason and Alex to consider when reading this volume 1 was there a moment you fell in love or noped out? And Jason,
perfect segue.
Yeah, you were saying.
Yeah. So yeah, like I said, the first chapter was impressive. It's well paced. It's really interesting, but it's kind of a bummer, to be honest with you. And then what I was not expecting is right at the beginning of chapter 2, Tanjiro and Nezuko go into like this cave, and Nezuko just pops out of a hole.
Yeah, it's like suddenly slapstick.
Yeah, and I'm like, wait a minute, what? Am I reading this wrong? Is this? And then she's like, kind of like in a slug pose, like half into this basket, and I'm laughing, I'm having a good time. And then later in the same chapter, Nezuko literally kicks a dude's head off.
Yes, that's what I was gonna say. Because one of your things was like favorite panel, and that's like my favorite panel. But also I loved it in the anime when she just like kicks off the guy's head, and it's so unexpected.
She is not to be trifled with. Without a doubt.
I would love to see how the anime handles that. But yeah, I just got to say, like, that second chapter, those two sequences in particular, I was like, yeah, I'm on board, because I was not expecting this series to do humor at all. And the fact that it does it, I'm hoping there will be more of that. Like, obviously, I'm not expecting that to be the overall tone. But the fact that it can happen, like, it creates that possibility space within this story. Super excited.
Oh, Jason, you are in for some surprises and rewards in the volumes ahead. I think that you have hit the nail on the head. That's one of the things that really made Kimetsu so special. Is you got a great story. The art is very, very good. But really, it's the slapstick, the way it shifts from like people beating the shit out of each other with swords and like special powers and whatnot to like the next panel. There's some really genuinely funny stuff in there for everyone. I mean, like for kids and adults. It's just the pacing is really well done.
Did not see that coming at all. Very pleasant surprise. Turns out popular manga is popular for a reason.
Oh, it's not just a hype machine. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Alex, what about you? Was there anything that you absolutely loved, or that you felt like, oh, this might be difficult to get over?
Well, see, like I think the thing that's different about me is, like I am a person who's okay with like, oh wait, it gets really good at episode 5, or like, you know, those kind of like shows where people recommend them to you and are like, wait for it, it's gonna get good. So like, yeah, I did think that the first episode was a bummer, and I did think the beginning of the manga is a bummer, but because I'm like, I never let that get me down, and this is how I waste a lot of my life. But like, it wasn't a waste of my life. Yeah, I mean, sometimes there is no payoff. Sometimes I do go and I go the distance and there's no payoff. But there is a payoff here. But like, I really like arcs that are beyond this. So like, there's more payoff that's waiting for you.
There is.
Yeah.
Oh, and I was so tempted to like make you read all the way to volume 3, but that would have defeated the purpose of just doing volume 1. But yes, the arcs, each one is absolutely memorable. Okay, Jason.
Wait. Can I ask a quick question? Just keeping the focus squarely on volume 1. I'm interested to learn. You know, both of you are You know how the whole series.
Read the whole series. Christmas
you've
2000.
Read the series. You've seen the movies. Maybe you've seen the anime. Have you read any of the associated light novels? Because I found out there's a whole bunch of.
No, I don't have that much time.
That's fine. I would have been very surprised. The question is though. So, is this your second time reading this volume 1?
For me, it's my second.
So, did you? You know, sometimes when you've read a story to its completion and then you return to the beginning, you notice things that maybe you didn't notice the first time through. Was there anything that stood out to you in this second reading that was like, oh wow, that ties into something, or like I'm seeing this in a new way as a result of knowing the whole, or maybe you don't remember, but You know what I mean? Like,
I had two things that stood out. I had two things that really stood out to me, and that's a great question. One was how completely eradicated from the rest of the story is Tanjiro and Nezuko's family after the initial opening of the series. And after that, there's like one other scene where his little brother comes back and like wakes him up at the end of volume 1 when he's been knocked out. And you think, oh, well, maybe like this is going to happen again, like a little bit of Force Ghost going on, like Obi-Wan.
I totally did think that.
You think that, right? Yeah, but no, never. They've gone off in different directions.
Yeah,
it's okay. I don't know. It's like
interesting.
It's a little bit like JoJo. If you read the first the first story, like Ichiban, where it's all about like the breathing techniques, right? And then it comes back in the second story, but then you go over to like the third arc, and no one's talking about breathing anymore because we got stands and they're way cooler. Yeah. It's basically that. And the other,
what I found out recently, there are like fans of the wave technique. They're like people who will tell you like, oh yeah, really? Stands are overrated, man. That's
oh my god, that's so funny.
They've never been in a fight, obviously.
Clearly. Yeah.
So did you have a fight where you were using waves versus stands, and you're like, this is definitely better with stands?
I do not personally have a stand, but I've seen a few fights like that at work, and the stands always work.
It's not even close, man.
Yeah. Oh gosh, REM was right. They've got a good song about it. So the other thing that really stood out to me was that when they go to the Taisho Senbetsu Shiken, where they have like this very Naruto-esque sequence where you have an exam, right? Where like you either live or you die, and if you live, then you get to go on and be part of the Kimetsu army, right? Like you pass, just like high school for a lot of us, obviously.
Yeah.
And
life or death,
and Tanjiro is just like busting out some badass moves that are of the wave, and they don't explain it at all in volume 1.
Yes, they don't explain it at all. I forgot that they don't explain it. Like I actually went back to when he's training on the mountain, because I was like, wait, did I miss like where he was learning all of these like different like moves? It's like,
did I miss a page? Like
no, not at all. And then in the rest of the story, it goes really deep, and there's like 13 different whatever, and like each one has like all these different moves, and it gets really, it's like a Bleach level series of moves. Like the system is so detailed, but none of that involved. Clearly, Koyoharu and her editor had just not really gone that deep into the story. It's what it felt like.
It's like he figured it out on the mountain. Like, when he was meditating, it just kind of like came to him.
Jumping over traps and stuff. It's like Luke in the small bodega.
Yeah, and he's like, okay, this one is number 1. I guess this is the first stance, or like the first, whatever you call it, first form. Yeah, I guess it's first form. Like,
this is always impossible to answer when it comes to manga, but it's one of those things that makes me wonder, like, was that planned? Like, let me just show you what the really cool moves look like, and I'll explain how they work later. Because, like, that kind of happens in JRPGs sometimes, right? Like, you know how sometimes you'll play, like, the prologue, and your character will be able to do this super cool move, and you're like, wow, cool, that's awesome. And then the real story starts, and you have, like, attack as an option.
And a little dagger.
And you have to build back up to that. So was it that, or was it them just saying, like, we don't know how big of a hit this is going to be, so just like, show us the cool stuff?
When I went back and read, because it's also hard to like understand how much time has passed if you're like blowing through everything. Like it's been 1.5 years, I guess, after he came to the mountain. So I guess in that 1.5 years, he figured out a lot of stuff.
Clearly.
Like, he just figured out a lot about himself and a lot about water. And like
he has that like cyclone water move. I was like, cool, dude. I don't know where you learned how to do that, but good.
He learned how to water bend.
Well, I wonder, like, is that his own signature move that he came up with?
You will get into this, but Alex, please.
Oh no! Like, because like watching the anime. Because I watched the anime first, and then I read the manga, and then now I'm coming back to the manga. So I thought actually it was explained. Like I thought it was explained at that point, but then it wasn't. and then I think I'd just been like misremembering order.
I think one of the best things that anime does is it goes back and takes the best parts of any story and puts them in chronological order, and it makes it
so
really
you understand
easy
what's happening
to understand what the hell is going on. They do that in some really like Berserk and whatnot. I mean, I don't know if the anime really helps like that, but it puts things into a story that is a little bit easier to follow. And maybe that's what's going on with Kimetsu as well. It doesn't even get explained until much later in the first arc.
Well, that's encouraging to know. But, one other thing that anime does well, I think, when it's a good adaptation is it kind of like... It sometimes the anime will take like these little throwaway scenes in the manga that could use a little bit more embellishment or like a little bit more zhuzhing. And like, for me, I don't know why this is the case, but... Coming into chapter 1 of the manga, I was really excited to see how they handled, like, when Tanjiro goes into the town and the guy comes out and is like, it wasn't me, man, it was the cat. And his mom's like, it wasn't the cat. And I don't even really remember what they're talking about.
They're talking about there's like broken pottery.
Yeah, the broken pottery.
The pot is broken. Yeah, the pottery is broken. Right.
A daily occurrence at my house.
That was... And you don't even have a cat, so good luck. But... So for some reason that was like my favorite part in the anime, and I was like, oh, I can't wait to see that in the manga. And it's just like one crappy little panel.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, so that is why we sometimes need an anime.
Yeah, I mean the anime was really well produced. Like the axe throwing scene too was very dramatic in the anime. Yeah. The
actions, I'm sure we'll get into this a little bit later, but the one part where the manga kind of falls down for me is I think Gotouge is not super great at action scenes, at least not so far.
No.
It's really not clear what's going on, and there's like a lot of visual shorthand happening.
I took the liberty of reading the first one-shot Gotouge drew. And
wow,
cool. It is so confusing. It is so confusing. And like all the panels are really badly thought out, like where they are, and it's
You've been to manga school, so you know.
Yeah, and also like the editor was like, "This is like the basics of manga are like not even like upheld in this, but it's very interesting. But I don't know what's happening."
That's so, really cool. Like, is it the same characters, same universe, or is it a totally different story?
A Taisho type piece, and it's also about demons, and they're also drinking and eating humans.
She has her interest.
The bloods, and so like there's definitely like already like I want to draw demons in Taisho Meiji era, and like I want to draw people wearing the hat, like Muzan's hat, like. Like she was like, I need that hat, I need the suit, and then like I need some like kimono women who also are like kick-ass. So like you see it all there, but it's so much better in Kimetsu, like all the paneling and everything, like those were years well spent training for this.
Oh wow, so that was years before.
Yeah, that was
3 years before.
3 years.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Well, she really picked it up, because this one is done well. But that brings us to our next question. What was your favorite panel or page in Volume 1? I think, Alex, you already said kicking the head off.
Yeah.
Jason, was there anything for you?
I mean, kicking the head off is a very strong candidate. So if we're talking about specific panels, Nezuko poking up out of the hole in the cave definitely, resonated in my heart. The 2 pages that I keep thinking about since reading, like over the course of the past week, are first of all that one page. I think it's in the last chapter where there's just those 2 girls. It's a full page spread, and there's one of these creepy weirdo eye girls on either side of the page.
Yeah,
right.
And they're like, "Welcome to the," and so that part really stood out to me. But then also the first time Tanjiro sees the big rock that he's supposed to cut, it gets this one big full page spread, and it really shows. It's a good example of Gotouge's like paneling and pacing, right? Because it shows you what a big deal it is for him. He's like, what? I have to cut this thing? And it's a pretty simple illustration, but it's just really effective. And I'm trying to find it.
It's a big rock.
Yeah, no,
yeah, but it's got the rope around it, so it's got like all that, historical kind of
It's this one
significance vibe to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's the one.
That is, and we all face big rocks like this in our own life. Alex, what has been your biggest rock that you've ever had to cut?
Oh, man, my biggest rock. I guess like work-life balance. But I think that's a rock we all have to cut.
I was struggling with that this week. Jason, what about you? Any giant rocks that you have managed to cut in your life?
I'm really struggling hard not to make a gross medical joke, but that would be too revealing. The biggest rock that I've had to cut was in the 4th grade. We had a bench ball team that was real strong, and that's getting into sports manga territory. So we've all been there, time and time again in life.
I don't know if I've been there.
I'm trying to think about have I ever had a man in a Tengu mask telling me, "Hey, if you cut this big rock," you know what it was? It was when I was working as a barista. The manager, the store owner, once took me aside and he was like, if you don't adjust your attitude, you're never gonna make it through this life. And that might
as a barista, or just like in general.
No, he made it about the bigger picture.
He took
it. He didn't have a Tengu mask on, but he might as well have. You know what I mean? So that's stayed with me. So I guess that's my big rock.
Oh.
Did your attitude change after that day, or
I don't know. Okay. Maybe not enough.
Started digging 2 espressos instead of just 1. Okay, that's going to bring us into our next question. Which character made you the most angry in Volume 1? And this can be any character at all.
Wow.
Jason, I'm going to throw it to you first.
Who made me the most angry?
Like upset, uncomfortable, whatever. Your least favorite character in the entire manga for Volume 1.
I don't know if it counts as a character, but the gross weirdo arm monster thing in the last chapter with the hands over its face made me real uncomfortable. And kind of angry with how veiny it is.
Yes.
But also just kind of how... I don't know, there's a lot of tonal whiplash happening in this first volume. Like, we get the training montage that's barely a montage, and then all of a sudden Tanjiro has to go up to this weird demon mountain because he passed the test. Then there's this gross, veiny, wiggly monster thing. And
the monsters only get grosser from here.
Yeah.
It was crazy. Okay, yeah, so that's the thing that made me... And then the other thing that made me angry was when... gosh, I can't pull his name. It's the guy with the kitsune mask, the fox mask.
Sabito.
Sabito, yeah. Sabito and Makoto.
Makomo.
Yeah, when he was like...
Makoma?
They have weird names,
If you were born as a man, then you gotta be strong and tough.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a little bit of that Taisho...
toxic masculinity of the Taisho era.
not
Here's
acceptable.
The thing, right? So in the moment, I was like... Tut, we've moved past this. But then I found out he's a ghost. So I was like, maybe that's actually some kind of commentary. Because like back in his day when he was alive, that was the cool way. You know what I mean? Yeah, back in my day, Otokos were born strong. And that's what you are, so don't be a weakling. Yeah. But you know what I mean? So like, I've been thinking about that a little bit. Like maybe that was a commentary. But those are the guys that made me angry.
I hope so.
It's a good observation.
Especially since the author is not a man. So I wonder if there is a deeper...
Do we know that for a fact?
Yeah, absolutely. She was on TV.
Okay. Because whenever you search for stuff about Gotouge in English, it's always they pronoun in English.
Oh, really?
Because they I think they never made it obvious.
Okay.
For a longest time. But I'm pretty sure. Either that or an alligator. Always an alligator in art form.
Yeah, alligators famously do not have genders.
No, reptiles don't generally. It's like the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park, which brings us to our...
Very forward thinking.
Episode 13. We'll get to that later. Alex, was there a character that absolutely drove you bonkers?
Yeah, so I have... The first one is Tanjiro's mom. Because she named him Tanjiro. Which is like very Cinderella of her. Like of all of his siblings have normal names. Mm-hmm. Have you noticed that?
Or like
except for Nezuko, like that ne is like Yakuba Barai. It's
yeah. I mean, it is a weird name. It is a weird name, but I feel
Taisho.
like, but it's a good thing, right? Getting rid of like bad spirits and stuff.
Sure, yeah.
So like that's good, but like Tanjiro's like literally charcoal, charcoal boy. So it's like. And like the tale of Cinderella, like she doesn't like start out well, right?
No, she does not. Terrible.
So I feel like you
toxic
wouldn't
family situation.
give your children names based on things like charcoal or like burnt out things. So
you think they could have
Not
tried?
exactly aspirational, is it?
You think
it's
they
not
could
very
have tried a little bit harder?
aspirational. Yeah.
I guess
I'm just looking at the page where some of the other. So the other kids have names like Hanako.
They gave up at the sixth kid. They were just like Rokuta or something. Yeah, they're just like six kids. I mean, at least it wasn't like, I don't know, like burnt ash child or something like that.
Could have been worse. Yeah, you
and
think
Tanjiro
too.
Sorry, I have a second person that pisses me off. Sorry, not pisses me off, but like made me go at the time is Uroko Daki because
really?
Because okay, when
Mr.
they first
Tengu
meet
himself.
Mr. Tengu himself, because when they first meet, like I don't know, I guess like I didn't look maybe how many days had passed. It's just like a day, right? Had passed or 2 days. So he didn't seem to know about the demons, right? Tanjiro. Like he didn't seem very like skilled in the knowledge of like he didn't seem very like he had come across this very much, and then he happens upon another demon and it's like oh holy crap, like there's a lot of demons out there. And then he's like very bewildered and like what should I do, and like can't kill him like immediately, and then like Uroko Taki slaps him in the face and is like, this is why you fail. And, like, slow down, dude. Like this guy, he doesn't know what's going on.
His family has just been brutally slaughtered.
Yeah. He's found out that there's these things that are like murdering everyone that he wasn't really aware of. And now his sister has become one of them. So, like, he's just kind of, like, trying to process this. And then you're just, like, you're thinking too slow.
Very little empathy with Mr. Tengu. And I think it's just because he's seen too much death. Too much death in his time.
Too much, yeah.
He's seen too much. Well, hopefully we never get there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be that jaded.
Not at all. Okay, that'll bring us to our next question. What do you think of the art style in the manga? You don't want to know about the anime. We all know about the anime. I'm talking specifically about the manga. Is it something that you're into, or is it something that, maybe not be your favorite? Alex, thoughts?
Well, I really like woodblock prints and like ukiyo-e type style. So I really like how it is like taking a lot of stuff from that. Especially when you start to see Tanjiro's special moves. Like, it's very apparent. And then, like, the textile patterns. I like Japanese textile patterns, so when they come into there, and they're just, like, very nicely drawn. So I think that the art is pretty good, actually. Maybe some people don't think so, but, I mean, there is a little bit of same face syndrome. I don't know if you're aware.
I mean, it's not on the same level as Attack on Titan, but there's a little bit. Who is the guy? He's like the water Hashira guy who comes in Volume 1. What's his name?
Don't ask me people's names because
I'm
so bad at people's names. Oh, wait, Gyu.
Yes.
Yeah, Gyu just looks kind of like an older version of Tanjiro, without...
He has cooler hair.
He has cooler hair. He does. He's got like the emo hair going on, which I don't know if that was a thing in Taisho.
At first, when I first saw the anime and I saw Gyu, because also the way that the characters are drawn, it's hard to understand their age. Because like Tanjiro's mom looks like Nezuko.
But I mean, I think that was a thing back in the early 1900s.
Oh yeah,
they had him young back then.
Yeah. But anyway, so I thought that Gyu was his dad, who wasn't actually dead. Like I thought that
just for a second,
this was going to be the start of like, you know, like, oh, this is what really happened to my dad, because they're like, oh, like dad's
he went off and joined the war.
Yeah, he went off and joined the war.
The war against the demons.
Yeah, now he's like appeared, but then he wasn't his dad, so I was like, okay.
Okay. No, I definitely get that. Jason, what do you think? Hot or not?
So I love the look of the anime, right? So and I was prepared because the internet told me, actually the art in the manga kind of sucks. So I was expecting to go into the manga having to like, you know, plow through, you know, mediocre art or whatever. I love the art style from the first page. I think there's almost like this shoujo manga, like real delicacy to some of the line work. Like it's really, really elegant, thin line work, which I really enjoy. You know, Alex already mentioned some of the fabric with the patterning. I think there's a few panels where the patterning does like almost supernatural looking things, where it'll just like extend off of the characters' like natural contours, and it'll just like extend to the end of the page just because it looks cool, and it does look really cool. But I guess what I really loved is there's something that used to happen a lot in like 80s and 90s manga that doesn't happen as much anymore, which is like the not exactly like chibi versions of the characters, but like you know,
the
expression, facial features, will just like suddenly become very, very minimal to like convey a certain emotion and stuff.
Definitely.
That does not happen in the anime, and the fact that it happened here, I was like, oh, that was like, in addition to the comedic stuff, that was the other element that made me think like, okay, this is a series I can get into, because for whatever reason, I need mangaka to be able to do that. And if they can do it well, I'm on board, or I'm at least gonna like give them the benefit of the doubt. So
they do it in the anime like later. So like,
do they? Okay, I'm happy to hear
that. Maybe that's what made Mugen Risha such a hit.
Okay, that's good to know. But yeah, there's a few little scenes where like, you know, Tanjiro's eyes will just be two little pinpoints, and it's super enjoyable.
Tanjiro's such a good
But
character.
yeah, what did you think, Mark? What do you think of the art?
No, I loved it. Some of the shading and coloring on the hair, which I think we pointed out is not my favorite thing in the world. But I think she was mostly putting her attention into the outfits, the kode of each and every character. Like even every single one of these like Zakokera demons, like these demons that just are gonna die in like one or two panels. They all have their own unique look. Clearly she was thinking the author was thinking very hard about how just the aura that each one of these would represent, and it only gets better as you get deeper into the series. So absolutely grade A on character design.
Well, we do have to reiterate, I totally agree with you on that, and everyone is very gorgeous to look at, and like even just like little strategic stuff like using, you know, the kind of costuming that Nezuko has to like expose a little bit of leg in a way that's like, you know, kind of risque. It's just like clearly a lot of attention is being paid to the clothes that the characters wear, and like, you know, the positioning of their bodies and stuff in those quiet moments is really impressive. But we do have to reiterate, like, the action scenes are kind of bad. Like, there are scenes where
they're not great.
It's hard.
Tanjiro's moving his sword around, but it's just like this white line that's kind of moving around, and you know. So I'm hoping that kind of improves, or that it's not super central to the story. But it sounds like there's a lot of action in this story.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Well, yeah.
It could be the reason why she uses that woodblock style for the big moves, right? So you don't have to show too much action. It's just like a beautiful scene.
Yeah, it's just like cool like wavy things. Maybe that's why suddenly Tanjiro like made these cool wavy things, because the artist was like, wait, I can make these special moves and it'll make the action sequences less like lame.
Too much work. No,
one other question I had for you, since you both have read the whole thing. There's a lot of like facial scarring going on.
Yeah.
Yep.
Is that a thing, or is that just like, you know how some mangaka just have stuff that they kind of like to draw? Is there like a bigger thematic reason for that?
No,
I think
Alex, go ahead.
I think it's the time period, though, and also the fact that they're, like, fighting demons that are trying to murder them all the time.
Completely agree.
That'll do it.
For those listening at home, before the internet was invented, most people spent the majority of their time outside, which is much more dangerous than inside a house. You could be
thank God they
attacked
invented the internet.
or maimed
terrible.
at any time, which happened to a lot of characters here in Kimetsu, if you're reading. And also, gosh, I didn't get to express my rage, but the character that made me the most angry was that elderly gentleman when Tanjiro went down to the town to sell some coal.
Oh yeah,
and he was like,
the guy who's like
stay the night.
yeah, there's like demons out.
sleeping.
Yeah, you should. You know, it's getting kind of late. Maybe you kind of want to stay at my house for just a night, right? Like you don't want to go out there alone. It's dangerous to go alone. Here, take this. No, stay at my house. And Tanjiro's like, okay, sure, yeah, because he's like not jaded yet. I'll stay at your house. And then he wakes up the next morning, first light, goes to his house, and then everyone has been slaughtered. You'd think that if that was
yeah. Why was that old man like, hey, demons are around? Wait, doesn't your family live on that mountain?
Well, okay, but what if if he hadn't run into that extremely accommodating elderly gentleman, would Tanjiro also have gotten wiped out?
Well,
I didn't
that's
think
what
about
Tanjiro
that.
thinks. I mean, Tanjiro says, like, if I hadn't, like, stayed there and slept, like, nicely, then I would be here slaughtered with my family.
Yep. No.
So, yeah.
And given, I don't think they reveal who was the demon that came to the house in Volume 1.
No.
But when you find out,
Not in Volume 1, no.
Yeah,
Please don't tell me. I can't wait to find
we can't.
out.
I think you're absolutely right. He would be slaughtered. But you find out if you read on.
Oh man.
Okay. So that kind of takes us to. We've only got 2 more questions as we close this out. But Kimetsu touches on so many different things. It's got elements of the best of shonen manga. It touches on, I mean, there's a lot of shoujo manga influences as well. But is there anything that when you were reading this, you felt like, oh, this reminds me of this series or this movie or another work of art that you think perhaps the author drew from when creating the story? Jason, you go first.
I can't really indicate exactly why I felt this way, but I felt a really strong Naruto influence. And I don't think that's like, groundbreaking or like super illuminating, but I think it's just like, it might just be, hey, popular shonen manga influences another popular shonen manga, but specifically Naruto because like it's committed to being in this kind of historical but kind of fantasy world. It's got this like kind of innocent and goofy young boy protagonist. Obviously Naruto is really goofy and Tanjiro isn't quite that goofy, but just I don't know, something about the line work, something about the way the art style is like a little bit rough, but also kind of elegant in places. I just felt. Does that resonate for either of you? Like the Naruto influence feels really strong.
Again, no, the test at the end of Volume 1, where they put them all on the mountain to die.
I mean that test is very Shonen Jump.
Totally.
And then, do you all remember in the first like 3 or something chapters of Naruto, there was like. He had an original sensei that just never gets seen again because she gets replaced by what's his face, who's always reading the
Kakashi.
Kakashi sensei. So like it felt like there was some stuff in the first few chapters that like we're just gonna leave that behind and you're never gonna see that again. It just felt like kind of working itself out in the way that Naruto felt like it was. Whereas to compare it to something like One Piece felt like very committed to itself from the beginning. I don't think there's much that like fell by the wayside. Where some manga kind of take a few chapters to really figure themselves out. So
a few working sessions with the editor.
A little bit, yeah. So yeah, for me, and then I was trying to think about other influences. I already mentioned it, but just like it's rare for me to read a Shonen Jump, shonen adventure battle manga that feels so influenced by shoujo tendencies. Like, you talked about the big slap that Tanjiro gets, right? And then if you look at the next page, there's just this close-up on his face with his eyes almost looking like dewy and like you could picture them wiggling in an anime, right? And you wouldn't see that, I think, in a lot of shonen manga. So there's just like this sensitivity to the way the characters convey their emotions that I thought was very shoujo style. So
yeah, there's more like inner workings that you like see little glimpses of.
Absolutely.
Yeah. In a really great way, actually. I kind of wish there was more of that in in shonen and seinen manga. But
again, the character development, absolutely amazing. You feel like you really understand, and just as they go deeper into the series, like all the characters, you know what makes them tick, why they make the decisions that they do, and the world building is so good. It really sticks to the story. Alex, what about you?
That's cool.
Anything that it reminded you of?
Well, like, just the test is like every test, but like I guess just because I really like the Hunter exam, so I was just thinking of like Hunter's exam.
Oh yeah.
But then the thing is that has like actual organization, whereas this is just like, hey, like survive on this mountain. So like it's like the lax version.
They've been catching demons for a couple of years, and you just throw them up on top of this mountain.
Yeah, like it just seems a little bit haphazard. But then later you understand because like they're very short staffed.
They are.
So they don't have like they don't have the people for a committee of like exams. Like they don't have time for that.
They can't children, literally.
I know they can't even keep people alive.
They can't keep people alive. Like, they're having a very hard time.
All their shinsots are dying on them. It's tough.
Recruitment must be very hard.
Clearly.
Which is like the same in like every Jump series with this kind of theme. It's just like very hard to keep those recruits flooding in.
No, but that's a good point. I think back to my graduating class of about 20 people, and of those 20 people, 0 of them went on to a profession where they had to kill people for money. So it's hard to find people interested in this kind of thing.
I mean, especially if it's like
interested
is
one thing, but can they actually pull it off? You know what I mean? Are they actually cut out for this kind of work?
I mean, it's hard, and like we don't even know if they get any compensation.
No,
because nobody talked to Tanjiro about his cut of any of this. So.
No, they don't. They give you a raven and some clothes and a sword, which is kind of cool, but there's like no salary or whatnot. And, oh my gosh, it kind of takes us back to Chainsaw Man, which we talked about in the Ghost episode.
At least he's getting some. At least he's getting some compensation.
Bread with jam on it. Come on.
Yeah.
And he loves it. He's a cheap date.
Like you never see Tanjiro eating too during the entire time he's training on the mountain for like over a year.
Great point.
That Tengu guy, I mean, it's not like he's going to have a lot up there in that little mountain cabin, right? It's probably like porridge.
Yeah, so it's like, okay, so when you first read it and you don't get to the test part, you're like, maybe he's losing all of his deshi because he doesn't feed them or gives them a good place to sleep because they're like in his trap mountain all day.
Clear HR issues with this guy and the way he runs his training program.
Yeah, I guess that's why I had a lot of problems with him. He just like doesn't treat.
Oh gosh, that's probably absolutely. I mean, most of his disciples die, which is in an instant 1 star in Glassdoor.
Yeah. By the way, I'm dead as I write this.
Also, other influences, JoJo definitely.
JoJo.
Breathing.
Yes.
The power of breathing.
Definitely felt that.
Okay, that aspect for sure. Yeah, okay, I can see that. There's actually even a diagram of his lungs, and it's like... It makes you feel like you're reading science, but then when you actually stop to think about it, you're like, wait, what?
It's jump science. Yep.
Yeah, it's jump science. Yeah, and even Tanjiro's like, I don't, like, it sounds like something, but I don't get it.
And it's like, don't worry, dude, you will.
Yeah, you will.
You will. Just give it a few more
And even if you don't, the important thing is that you can do it.
Okay, so this is going to take us to our last question of the night before we wrap this up. We've been here for an hour, but I want to know, and Alex, I'm going to start with you. I'm going to put you into the shoes of the main character. If you were Tanjiro, and you found your family brutally murdered, and your sister mortally wounded and changing into a demon, what would you do?
So when I saw this question, my first thought was, I'm too old for this in many ways. Like, I'm just like, I can't. I mean, I guess my husband counts as family, but I was like picturing my family, that like my mother who like gave birth to me, that type of thing. And I was like, well, I wouldn't be living with them, first off. But also, I think that nowadays there are a lot cooler solutions. So like, it wouldn't be that bad, because like if my sister became a demon, and I actually have a little sister, I could have
quite a demon.
So like, no, I have a little sister, so I can like do this thought experiment, like picturing a person. Like, there's a lot of better solutions than a basket and a bamboo thing to put in her mouth to stop her like from eating people. Like, I feel like we have a lot of modern things that could stop her mouth from opening and biting into people. And also, I could transport her around with different things that wouldn't involve me carrying her, on my back. I mean, it wouldn't be an Uber Eats. Like, I wouldn't put her in that backpack because she wouldn't fit. I don't think she could get that small, even if she tried. But I could.
Can I just say, I love when Tanjiro thinks about that. He's like, if she can get big, maybe she can also get small.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, okay, that's very convenient that she can do that. But
just a couple of powers. Yeah, have some powers with your demonization. Sure, why not?
Yeah. So anyway, I just think there's like a lot of modern solutions that would make it better. And then also, I could lend her out to some horror movies to be like an extra.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so like she could actually make money on the side.
And who knows, if she put in her dues, did a few side jobs, she could even star in her own film.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nezuko would be huge on TikTok, honestly.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh,
What's she going to do this time?
Yeah, so it's actually not that bad having a demon sister in this day and age, I think.
That's our quote.
We talked about what Tanjiro ate on the mountain. What the hell did Nezuko eat?
Nothing.
You know what I mean?
No, and
she didn't eat anything.
What did she do?
She slept for a year and a half. She was in a coma.
She slept for a year and a half.
She was in a
coma.
Is that canon? We know that.
We know that for a fact. No, so she made this decision to not eat people, which is something that most demons are not able to do. It's very, very rare. But either
she's got willpower.
She got willpower, right? Where there's a will, there's a way. Not often times, but in this case, yes. So she slept instead of eating human flesh to regenerate herself.
Good call.
Oh,
if I had to choose one or the other,
save the
I
series.
would choose sleeping as well.
But
Good for her.
Jason, what about you? Put yourself in Tanjiro's shoes. What would you do?
Okay. So I'm taking kind of an opposite approach from what Alex. So Alex kind of really, put herself in that situation. I also have a younger sister. If it was me in my real life and my sister became a weird demon ogre creature, I would be like, well, she had a good run. She's 31 years old.
Oh, man.
Good luck to you in the world. But if I was Tanjiro and I was in this actual situation, one thing that like I'm kind of hoping gets picked up on a little bit more later on is like he has this super smelling power apparently.
Yep.
I mean,
Yep. Central to the story.
You don't think it was picked up on enough? I felt like it was too much.
It's like it's one superpower, and then you get into other, and like there's another guy who's got like a super sense of hearing, and there's another guy who has like super. It gets a little bit ridiculous.
I just feel like there's a lot he could be doing with that, like if my whole family
like a sommelier or something like that, like open his own wine shop.
Yeah, you could be a restaurant critic in the Taisho period. You could be a sort of carnival attraction, like I'll smell your fortune. I'm not a smelling
That's
expert.
That's like kind of a fetish type. I feel like this like is going to weird thing.
But people had a lot of free time in the Taisho period, so
it was before the internet.
A lot of weird fetishes
years before the internet
happening. So I would just lean hard into the super smelling thing and try to make a go of it that way.
That's an excellent answer.
And to get the hell away from the demons. I'd be like, oh, there are demons? Where are they not at?
You should have noped out of that at the beginning. Yeah, no.
I'd be like, I would just smell, teach me the demon smell. I would ask around, what do demons smell like? Learn that smell, go the opposite direction.
Stay away from
That's what I would do.
It would be that easy. I mean, clearly enough people in the country are just absolutely fine.
Yeah, like if the government doesn't care enough to like actually like
move against this
to move against
dark
them.
force.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
It's probably all right.
Yeah.
What are people are just like? Yeah, we know they're out there, but what are we gonna do? You know, just hopefully they don't come into our houses.
Yeah.
It was Taisho.
Oh, you know, maybe that's what I would do if I was Tanjiro. I would say like, maybe we can improve our door locking situation. Can we get some
Seikon security in here.
Yeah. Okay. So he becomes a home security advisor.
Exactly. Yes.
People,
That's what I would.
people. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No.
Mike, what would you do if you were Tanjiro?
Oh my gosh! And I found my sisterly mortally wounded. So I think. Oh gosh. You know, that's a really good question. I thought I would just ask you. I think the biggest thing that you have to think about is it could go one of two ways with like the initial altercation, and either you overpower her and stop her from eating because she was literally trying to eat Tanjiro at the beginning, right, at the opening of the story, right, or you know, it could have gone the other way. She's a demon. She's got super strength. And she could have eaten. That would have been the end of the story real quick. I do not have a sister, but I do have a brother, and he played football, and he is a big dude. And if my brother turned into a demon, I think that would have been the end of the story real quick. I would be dead, unable to overpower.
He starts out big and then gets even bigger.
I know, right? Like, I don't even think I could take him one-on-one now. So,
but Mark, you're Tanjiro, so you have super smell and you also are fast.
Is that going to be able to save my ass when I've got like this giant 300-pound demon jumping up and trying to eat my head? And I didn't know that was coming. A little bit of a sucker punch there for Tanjiro. He's in a couple of pinches in volume 1, and I would say that this is probably the most dangerous pinch that he is in. At least in the entire first arc. And it could have all ended right there. But it didn't.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, Gyu came at a good time, too.
Yeah, no, he did. Oh, I guess if Gyu could save me, then... oh, gosh.
But then would Gyu then just end up killing your brother because you weren't able to stop him?
Maybe it's a little bit more scary, right?
Very anticlimactic end of the story right there.
Yeah, to my brother. Not that I would do everything that I could to save you, obviously. When you listen to this, of course. And that brings us to our final question. Overall impressions, like how would you recommend this to a friend, yes or no? Alex, we'll go with you.
Yes, I would. I mean, but I guess it would depend on what the friend wanted to read, because, I mean, maybe you're not always, like, in the mood for shonen and, like, fighting and a little bit, dark. So sometimes you just want a happy, like... just happy comedy or something like that. So, but for people who aren't looking for something in particular, I think it's good for anyone.
Fun for the family. Jason, closing thoughts?
I mean, I feel like I'm way late to this party, so at this point, if I recommended this to anybody, they'd be like, yeah, lol, I read that 3 years ago.
When everyone was crying about it.
I gotta say, you know, well, especially my daughter, she's 7 years old now, and she's getting really interested in manga. And so she's getting to that age where I'm like, I can't wait until she's old enough that I can say, like, hey, read this, tell me what you think about it. You know what I mean? So planning to hang on to the series until she gets old enough, and that's something to really look forward to. Am I interested in reading it? Like 1,000%. I can't wait. Alex, you mentioned that it's a welcomely. It's a short series by standards, which is awesome. Like the fact that it's already finished. It's only 23 volumes. Is so approachable, and I cannot wait. I'm super excited to read the rest of this.
Awesome. Oh, and I'm so excited that you were able to get into this, and I'm excited to talk about Kimetsu because I literally consumed it in it was Christmas holiday season, New Year of 2020. Just ripped through all 23 volumes just in record time. It influenced a couple of my life decisions, made me think about what was really, really important. Fighting.
Wow.
Yeah.
Really?
No, really. It did. Like in the best years.
No, because I remember when you read it, you told me about it. And I remembered asking you, like, that first episode of the anime is pretty dark. Like, is this a feel-good type of story? And you're like, it will make you cry. And I was like, well, I'm never going to read it then. And but I do remember how much you loved it when you read it. And now I totally get it. And I wish I had read it sooner. But
I mean, some things you feel good because you are invested enough to cry, right?
Exactly.
So,
nicely said. Yep.
You gotta maybe put the investment in.
Definitely.
Totally.
And there's a return on this investment. So if you haven't picked up Kimetsu yet, we absolutely recommend that you pick it out. The manga is absolutely fantastic. Of course, you can watch the anime as well. Plenty of movies to enjoy out there.
Or do it both, because I think there's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot in both camps for you to discover something like the cat and the pottery scene not being a big deal in the manga.
Oh, so
by the way, I have picked up a couple of the light novels as well. So
wow.
Maybe I'll report back about those later on.
We're reading on the side. No,
I got them. I don't know if I'm ever going to read them, but I got them.
Okay. Any idea what they're about? Is it stuff that's covered in the books, or is it completely
separate? I've intentionally shied away from any kind of plot synopsis. To be fully transparent, the reason I have them is because Book Off had this crazy package deal, which was like the first 15 volumes and like, hey, we'll throw in some light novels as well for like a crazy cheap price. So I was like, yeah, why not? I'll have those.
I love those deals.
But I'm up for like an in-universe light novel if it's a manga I really enjoy. So I might get there with this series.
Well, that is something to look forward to next time. Speaking of next time, we're going to be tackling a different book. And Alex, I think next time is your pick. Have you thought about which one we'll be reading?
Yeah, so I guess if people want to read along, they can read it in anticipation. But I don't know the English title, or if it's in English. It might be in English because it's like, I don't know, it might be in English, but it's called Onna no Sono no Hoshi. Like, Garden of Women. The Hoshi in the Garden of Women.
Garden of Women.
No,
the Garden of Women. It's about.
We can put that in the show notes. We can find out if there's an English title.
It's by Wayama Yama, or Yama Wayama.
Wayama.
Yeah, say it a lot of times, and then you might not be able to say it again.
As with most.
I've got to say that the volume 3 of that one just came out, and it's been like prominently featured in bookstores. So I picked up the first volume. I haven't started it yet, but I'm definitely intrigued. It looks pretty funny. It looks interesting, I should say.
Yeah, and the art style, I think, is very distinctive of that author.
Yeah.
So.
Big tonal shift from Kimetsu no Yaiba.
It's a very big tonal shift, and
looking forward to that.
I suggested it with that in mind. Just gotta take some time to relax, and you need to have the deep breaths to make sure that we're all,
consistent deep of everything.
Yeah, consistent deep breaths. Yeah, Tanjiro would approve.
Tanjiro would approve. Well, there you have it. Tune in next week to get all that you can about the Garden of Women. We'll dig into that.
And Hoshi, the guy in the Garden of Women.
Nice.
Okay, and then I think we're done. I really don't know how to wrap up a podcast. Jason, do you have any secret advice?
Can't wait for the pig head guy to show up.
The pig.
Yeah, he's not gonna show up in the Garden of Women, but he will show up in the Garden of Demon Slaying. So.
He shows up in that house, right, with the guy, with like the Tsutsumi.
Oh yeah.
And you don't even really know what. In my mind, also, this podcast is done recording, by the way. But he just shows up and he's just going to town. On some, and then he starts attacking Tanjiro because he's
he's a little bit of a loose screw.
He's a little bit of a loose screw. Yeah.
He's the berserker.
Gosh,
he's the berserker.
He talked about some slapstick stuff. The stuff between Agatsuma, Zenitsu, the blonde hair dude, and Inosuke is so hilarious. It's like
is Inosuke the pig dude?
Yeah, Inosuke is the pig dude.
Can I just say that? It's so weird. Like, I know who all these characters are just from
it's just osmosis.
Like I see them. It's like watching an episode of The Simpsons and like, oh, this bald man is quite amusing. It's like it's really weird to encounter these characters in this way, but I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah.
I know Blonde Boy and I know Pighead Boy and I know.
Yeah, well, they're coming back.
Yeah. Like, I mean, they're like, because like you need like side characters to be like the comic.
Oh, they can make or break. They can make or break a manga. Absolutely.
Yeah, if it was just 100% Tanjiro all the time, it would be too much. Like, he's too pure. He's too much of a good guy. You need some like
too good.
wacky sidekick characters. And
I'm hoping for some real weirdos to show up, and I think
you will not be disappointed because it's all weirdos from here.
All weirdos. And the demons. Oh my! The demons are so well done. Oh, it's so good. I'm so excited for you.
I was not expecting in a series called Demon Slaying Blade. I was like not expecting a whole lot of demons to show up.
Really?
And, big oversight on my part. So I'm looking forward to that.
Oh, like
I really, in retrospect, I really don't know what I thought this series was going to be. I don't know why I'm so delighted and surprised by everything that's happening, but like, I really want to go back. Yeah, and just, what was I thinking it would be? I don't know, but yeah, it is. It's a good way to be.